We're back with another readathon. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm really excited to announce the fact that me and my best friend here on booktube, Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers, we are hosting our second annual Lunar New Year readathon. This was a readathon that me and Lacey kind of started last year, sometime around the January-February month, where we were discussing that we wanted to see more Asian diversity in books and we wanted to kind of promote these Asian diverse voices. So we decided to host a readathon near the Lunar New Year or around the Lunar New Year time. So this time around, we are hosting a readathon from February 12th all the way to February 14th. It's only like a 3-day weekend readathon, mostly because Lunar New Year does not last too long, and we just wanted to make kind of like a quick readathon where we can read as much as we can and have as much fun as we can as well. So for this readathon, we created some story templates on our Instagram stories. So if you guys haven't followed us yet on Instagram, definitely go check it out. That's where we're going to be doing most of our updates from, and we're gonna like talk about the books that we're reading and also a lot of book recommendation too as well. So for this readathon, we have a TBR Instagram chart, so then you can also add all the books that you want to read in the readathon there, so you can share with your viewers. And then afterwards we have kind of prompts too as well. So the 4 prompts that we created include new to you author, released from 2019 to 2021, recommended to you, or it has red on the cover. Now for the only rules that you'll have for this readathon is basically the fact that just read Asian voices. Lunar New Year is actually celebrated by, I think, like maybe like 4 countries. It's celebrated by China, Vietnam, Korea, and Tibet. So if you guys are looking for books specifically to those countries, you can do so too as well. But if you want to read books that are centered in the Asian continent, then you can definitely do so as well. I know a lot of my favorite Asian reads are actually South Asian reads. Even though South Asia doesn't celebrate Lunar New Year, I still think that it's worth reading and it's worth diving into, especially because it's diversity and it's also like a voice that still needs to be more represented in our culture today and also in our literature. So I'm really excited to host this readathon with Lacey, and I'm just going to go ahead and just like talk about some recommendations that I feel like that you should add to your TBRs or keep on your radar for the upcoming months, because I know that May is also in America Asian Pacific Heritage Month, which is another time for other readathons to happen. So you can always put these books on your tabs for either this readathon or for later on in the year. I also wanted to just give a quick note to new followers here or to people that are just stumbling onto my videos right now, that I do have a lot of videos on my channel currently where I actually dive deeper into Asian books, and that I read a lot of Asian books, and then that's how I kind of came up with a list of recommendations that I can give towards you right now. But obviously I can't include all these books, so definitely go check out my previous videos as well for more recommendations. So right off on the top of my head, the one recommendation that it kind of sticks to my mind every time I kind of see it on Bookstagram, I have like this kind of warm feeling towards it. But this book is called The Last Story of Mina Lee by Nancy Ju-Young Kim, and this is basically about a relationship. It's a mother and daughter relationship where the mother is an immigrant and then the daughter kind of was born in America, but then afterwards she was raised by a single parent, and then this single parent kind of had to go through a lot during the immigration process, settling down in America, losing everything that she once owned in Korea, and then finding a new life and raising her child here by herself. Meanwhile, we have a daughter that is so disconnected with her culture and her race that she doesn't feel like that she understands her mother's thinking sometimes, and you can see really like the push and pull between this relationship. I thought it was very spot on and talked about a lot of issues that a lot of Asian immigrants and first generations kind of go through. So I highly recommend you to check this book out for the readathon or just to add it to your watch list. We're going to switch it up and give you a middle grade recommendation for all my middle grade readers out there. They're just so precious, and like there are a lot of Asian authors writing middle grade, which I really appreciate, and you'll start to see in this video where I'm going to give you more middle grade representation. But the first book that I want to recommend to you that's in middle grade, it's Spirit Hunters by Ellen Oh, and this is basically about a young girl who actually has a special talent where she can see spirits and she can see ghosts, but her mom doesn't believe her because she's young and her mom thinks that she is is just being very imaginative, and the only person that seems to believe her is actually her grandma, which the grandma doesn't actually have the best relationship with our main character's mom, mostly because the mom kind of grew up with this mother who was really into spirit guides and who were always kind of like asking people if they wanted their fortunes told or if they wanted to, like, you know, banish the spirits in their house. The mother always thought that her own mother was a scammer, so that's why they kind of have a troubled relationship. And meanwhile, while I focused a lot on adventure and problem solving and figuring out like what's actually happening, and it's also kind of like middle grade horror, which was really spooky and scary, it also talked a lot about this relationship dynamic that I really appreciated, and that's why I highly recommend you to check out LNO. So moving on to another middle grade recommendation. Now this one is called Keep It Together, Kiko Carter by Debbie Machiko Florence. And basically this is about a young interracial middle grade student, and she's actually half Japanese and half Caucasian. Now a fun fact, or like a fact that if you don't know, is that Japan actually doesn't celebrate the Lunar New Year, and they don't follow that kind of calendar. They follow like a very traditional Western calendar, but I'm including it anyways because it's still a voice that we still need to read about, and it's also a country in Asia. So Keep It Together, Kiko Carter was one of my favorite books last year in 2020. It was just so freaking cute and so freaking adorable. Basically, Kiko is kind of entering into middle grade, and she thinks that she's gonna have like the best time with her two best friends. But what happens when those two best friends actually get into a fight over boys, and then Kiko ends up being in the middle of this giant fight, and she kind of feels like her life is falling apart, mostly because her friends are fighting against each other. And then also back at home, there are some issues where her mom is not that available anymore because her mom took on a more senior role at work. And then she also feels that she is losing connection with her younger sister, and then she just feels like her life is falling apart. But basically the story was so freaking cute and so freaking adorable, mostly because it talked about how our main character dealt with racism at school. It also talked a lot about internalized racism as well. And then it also talked about how she falls in love with like the one person that she would least expect to fall in love with. So another recommendation that I want to talk about is actually a South Asian recommendation. It's called Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. And now this one is a Jane Austen persuasion retelling. It's basically about a main character whose father passed away, but to live up to his legacy and to really like have him be at peace, she kind of holds herself accountable at making her late father's restaurant successful. But what happens is that the recipes are outdated, the food is kind of like not what everybody wants anymore, and the whole like restaurant decor is very outdated too as well, so much to the point that a lot of clients and a lot of customers actually don't go to that restaurant anymore. And now she is kind of stuck in this dead-end business that is losing her a lot of money. So her friends actually suggest her to go out and to promote the restaurant by going on a cooking show where she is paired up with a celebrity, and then that's where she is paired up with none other than her high school sweetheart that she ultimately like broke his heart. And then our hero is like I think he's a soccer player, and he's a professional soccer player. He kind of succeeded in life, got the recognition he deserved, got a lot of money, and he's basically way better than he was back in high school. So then now this is kind of their second chance romance. It's super angsty, and if you guys are a fan of Persuasion by Jane Austen, definitely check out this book. So the next book that I want to recommend is actually a young adult romance novel. This one's called Fake It Till You Make It by Jen Nguyen. I don't know how to say her last name, but basically this is Vietnamese and American representation. It's really important to me to read different countries of representation and not just like Chinese, because I am Chinese. So this one is basically about two best friends that have literally been like told that they were going to get married and that they were going to be together forever by their parents. And because their parents are just so romantic that they romanticize their friendship and they cause like a lot of issues. And then our two main characters are very like awkward about it. Like they don't want to be always constantly being at the center of attention and their friendship to be the center of attention. So what they decide to do is that they actually decide to fake date each other, and then afterwards they can fake break up with each other and remain friends at the end. And then that way like their parents would leave them alone. So this is kind of their romance. I thought that this book was so cute in so many different ways. It really surprised me about how good it was. So definitely recommend you to check this one out. I definitely recommend you to check this one out if you guys like a light young adult romance. So the next romance I want to kind of talk about is actually an indie published romance. This one's a novella. This one is by a Canadian author, and she writes Chinese romances, which I'm really excited for and I want to read more of. This book is called A Match Made for Thanksgiving, and basically this one is about an advertising exec who is tired of his meddling parents kind of like worrying over him simply because he's like approaching his 30s and he doesn't have a girlfriend yet, so automatically his parents think that there's something wrong with him or that he's not really out there trying. So what happens is that his older brother actually sets him up with a girl, and then that girl turns out to be his latest one night stand. So then this is kind of like their second chance of being together after that one night stand. And if you guys are a foodie and if you guys are Canadian, you guys would definitely enjoy this book because I absolutely devoured this one. It was so yummy in every sense, and I loved all the food descriptions in it too as well. So before ending this video, I just want to kind of talk about some new releases or releases that are going to be coming out in the next few months or this year that I want to bring attention to so that you guys can add it to your radar and hopefully add it to your TBR carts or to your shopping carts. So the first book that I want to talk about is actually an arc that was actually sent to me from the author. I am a huge fan of Debbie Michiko Florence's writing. I just think that she is so good and her stories are just so freaking cute. So I'm really excited to read this book after the first book, which is Keep It Together, Kiko Carter, which is a book that I just mentioned in this video. So this one is called Just Be Cool, Jenny Seikai, or Seikai. I don't know how to pronounce Japanese last name, so I apologize for it. But basically the story follows one of the best friends that I mentioned in the previous book, and she was dating a boy in that book, but what happens is that her heart breaks and she got dumped by her first ever boyfriend. So now she thinks that, you know, being in relationships are really hard and that she will never date ever again. But what happens is that she is closely stuck with her ex because they both work in the newspaper club and they're both going against each other for this really big competition. And the only time that she can like really focus and drill in on work is like in this like I would like to say in this like diner, and then afterwards that's where she meets a guy that always keeps sitting in her booth, and this is kind of like an enemies to lovers romance, which I'm like super excited to read. I just want to devour this book right away. So the next book that I want to bring attention to is actually a book that was actually released this month. This one's called A Taste for Love by Jennifer Yen, and now basically she is a Taiwanese author, and I think this is her debut novel, and I pre-ordered this book mostly because I did my research for Asian books. I wanted to purchase more Asian books. I wanted to support Asian voices, so I got it, and mostly because they're drinking bubble tea. And if you guys don't know me yet, I freaking love bubble tea. So basically this is about a girl who just graduated high school, I think, and then afterwards lots of people have different opinions of her. She has opinions of herself, but what they all agree on is that she's really good at baking and that she is going to be an excellent baker at her family's like bakery. So what happens is that I think she gets sent to do a competition for baking, and then what happens is that that competition is actually the Bachelorette, and that she has like a whole line of men to choose from that her mother set up, and now she has to go on all these series of dates. And I think this one's going to be hilarious. Really excited to pick this one up. So speaking of other YA novels that you should add to your radar, this one is one that lots of people have praised on Instagram and lots of people have kind of like told me in book groups that I'm in. This one's called A Full Love Story by Lone Lee. This has Vietnamese American representation. This one is kind of like, I would like to describe it as a Romeo and Juliet retelling. This one tells the story of these two teenagers who are pitted against each other simply because their parents and their families hate each other because they both own faux restaurants on the same street and they both steal each other's customers. So then that's why they hated each other and they couldn't be friends when they were growing up. And then now they're in high school and they're kind of like thrown into the situation where they want to be with each other, but then also like, what are you going to do when your family doesn't support you at all? So I'm super excited to read this. Lots of my friends have actually read this already and they loved it. So the next book that I want to bring your attention to is actually a South Asian romance, and this one's called Accidentally Engaged by Farah Hiran. And basically I met Farah in this like romance convention here in Toronto and I freaking loved her. She was like really cool and she's really chill. And then afterwards, this is kind of her novel with Forever Romance, which is a great publisher to publish her books with. So I'm really excited to see her kind of grow and to become like a solid voice in the community. So this one is actually a fake dating slash fake engagement trope. It follows a girl who is really good at baking, and then what happens is that she wants to win a competition, which is a couples competition for baking, and then she is going to go ask the man that her parents set her up with on a series of dates to pretend to be her like fiance so that they can both enter this competition and win together, and this one sounds really cool and really awesome, mostly because our hero is described to be as someone who is built as Captain America, has a delicious British accent, and he actually lives right across the hall. So I'm really excited to pick this one up. So the last book that I want to recommend to you, or the last book that I want to recommend to you to keep it on your radar, is this one that I was actually sent from the publisher. This one's called The Comeback by E.L. Shen, and this one has Chinese representation in it. This one's about a little girl who loves figure skating and everything, and that's her passion. So what happens is that she actually has a school bully that bullies her for her Chinese heritage, and then that kind of leads her to stop figure skating and to stop pursuing her passions. I know my heart's gonna break with this book, and I know I'm gonna start crying. So anyways, that is it for this announcement video and also a book recommendation video. Hopefully you guys can join this readathon. If you guys are joining this readathon, definitely use our hashtag, which is hashtag LNY readathon, and then come join the conversation with us. Post your pictures of your books on Instagram, tag us in your stories, you know, tag us in your videos, talk to us about what the books you want to read for the readathon, and maybe if you are willing to film a weekend reading vlog, definitely let us know so that we can watch it and support you guys and also join in the conversation. I believe that me and Lacey are also going to be doing a live show to wrap up the readathon as well, and to really discuss all the books that we read. And as a special thing, we decided that we want to watch the latest To All the Boys movie, and then have a discussion of that during the live show too as well. So if you guys want to discuss with us on that really cute movie, then definitely come join us. But I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.